Rev up your engines! Today we're going to talk about Hyundai's this 2014 Sonata. It burns about a quart of oil every 500 miles or so, and I'll explain what's behind this car, the problems they have, and to see what's going on in the transmission of this thing. The owner thinks it's starting to have problems. This baby is one of those that was made in Alabama. So the engine under the hood is a 2.4 liter, 4-cylinder inline engine. They had a lot of problems with these engines blowing up. They had to warranty a bunch of them. Now, this is still the original engine, but it did seize up once and stall because it had almost run out of oil. They changed the oil and filter, and he's still driving it, but it does burn a quart of oil about every 500 miles. Now, you might say, well, he bought it new, and you might say, well, that's not that bad of a car, excepting, of course, that it burns a quart of oil every 500 miles. This is because of one thing. You can see the vehicle's still in pretty decent shape, cosmetically, right? Almost all his mileage were highway miles. Other than the dent down here where it got whacked, and the whack isn't the car's fault. Can't blame the car in that, right? If you drive highway miles, he was going from Clarksville to Nashville and back, like an hour drive each way. That's equivalent to about 10 to 15% stop and go traffic. If this thing had gone 180,000 miles in stop and go traffic a long time ago, the engine would have gone, the transmission would have broken down, and it would probably be in a junkyard. But it did all that highway driving. You can get away with it because there's so much less wear. You're not using the brakes. The transmission isn't shifting. It's in top gear. The wind's blowing 70 miles an hour, cooling the engine so it doesn't overheat. It's just less wear on a vehicle when you're driving a highway. And that's why this one's still going down the road. It's not a turbo, but it is a GDI, high pressure fuel injectors. And that's another reason that the thing burns oil. All that extra pressure just has a tendency of wearing the engine out faster. Now we're going to put the big old scan tool on to check the transmission and everything else out. Still clean, black and chrome. Now the transmission on this is a 6-speed automatic transmission. It is not a CVT transmission. You're much better off not getting a CVT. The CVT transmissions that companies use, especially Korean companies, they're garbage. They cost a fortune to fix when they break. This is a regular automatic transmission, and that's one of the main reasons it's still going down the road. Now, he watched my videos, but he didn't put them into action. So he has never, ever changed the transmission fluid in this thing. And it's got 180,000 miles. It's never been touched. And he's kind of wondering about it. So I'm going to get my big old computer out. We're going to do diagnostics. It's making a noise, which means it's already reading it. We're only going to do a standalone diagnosis. So that's going to give us the data. And we're talking about Hyundai USA. Now it's Hyundai Sonata 2014 with the 2.4 GDI engine. There's the VIN and everything. So here we go. Scanning it pretty fast. We can have low heated seats, high heated seats, and a steering wheel. Nicely set up dash. Okay, now you can see this thing has 191,000 miles, yet it has no codes at all. Not a single code. That's kind of amazing if you think about it. But of course, there's more than code. So, kind of wonders about the transmission that he has never changed the fluid in. So, we're going to look at transmission data. There's no trouble codes. You already know that. Black is good. Red colors are bad. We are going to record. And it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shift control. We're going to record all that and take it for a spin. Kind of small backup camera, but what the heck. Worked good enough. And we'll let it go through all the gears. Then we'll look at the data, see if anything is weird, and we'll see how it feels. Pretty smooth shift, first to second, second to third, third to fourth. So far, it doesn't really feel that bad. There's no codes for it yet. We'll take it out when we can get a little bit of oomph going to it, and then we'll play the data back and analyze it. It's a little bit laggy, up and down shifting, but then again it's got 191,000 miles on it too. Get up to stop sign here and we'll see what it's going to do when it takes off, when there's no one around. There's nobody around now, so I felt a little bit of jerk there going into second gear when I took off. And now we'll get on the real straightaway here and get some serious testing when everybody gets out of the way, and they're out of the way now. I felt a little clunk there in first gear. We'll get it going down the straightaway here, give it some gas. Well, we'll wait till we see who this is. It might be the police. No, it's just some farmer. Step on the gas. Not bad, not super fast, but it didn't hesitate that much. But it did before, so we can take it back and analyze the data. Not in a straight line, there's no problems, and when we floor it, it downshifts. I can feel a little bit bump there. I mean, it's a little worn. It does have 191,000 miles on it. But I do have to say, since this 191,000 miles was put on almost all on the highway, going between Clarksville and Nashville back and forth at 75 miles an hour, the transmission is still in decent shape considering all that mileage. If it had been city mileage, I'd probably be gone by now, or it would be shifting your head back every time it shifted and giving you whiplash. Now, especially when I step on it, there, you felt that clunk. That's internal to the transmission, and it is worn. I felt that little clunk there. So we'll shut her down, and we'll go to the Hyundai Sonata we just did. So here we go. We can play back the data now, and we can analyze it. We're watching the data as it goes. Now it's into the higher gear. Now it's into 1, 2, 3, fourth gear. Now it's into third gear. Now it's back into fourth gear. Now we're going to look at it in graphic form. Now there isn't that much torque slippage, except if we go back here, as we're in the lower speeds, there's a lot of clutch slippage. The torque converter clutch is slipping a lot. And then later, it gets better. You can see right here it had a reasonable amount of slippage, and then the slippage went down and it was working better. Now that's at a higher speed. When you're at the low speed, you can see here there was a lot of slippage at the lower speed, which is that clunk that we felt. So it's wearing, but it hasn't gotten bad enough to trip any codes. So, yes, 191,000 miles. The transmission is starting to wear, especially that first to second shift when the clutch is slipping too much and you get that boom, boom. But it's okay, considering that this thing burns a quart of oil every 500 miles, and the transmission in second gear is starting to go out. He's thinking about buying another car. Now, he might buy another one of these depending on the price, but I'm trying to talk him into getting a four-door Corolla because they got 2 kids, they'll fit in the back. If he would have bought a four-door Corolla instead of this, he would probably, since he only drove on a highway, it would probably go 600,000-700,000 miles before anything like this happened, and it wouldn't burn oil at all because my old Celica doesn't really burn oil. It burns half a quart every 5,000 miles. This burns a quart every 500 miles. So if he can find a deal where he can get a four-door Corolla in the same price range as this thing, I told him, get a four-door Corolla. That thing will just run forever. But I mean, considering that he drove on a highway all the time, he got 191,000 miles, right? Original engine and tranny, and he never changed the fluid in the transmission. And I wouldn't advise changing it now, because that slippage would probably get even worse. He's got his money's worth out of the car, only he could have got a lot more if he would have bought something like a four-door Corolla or a four-door Honda Civic that, yes, you would pay a little bit more, but these days I've been kind of pricing around, and really the difference between stuff like Corolla and the Hyundais and Kias, sometimes the Hyundais and Kias actually cost $500 more. And in that sense, just go out and get a Toyota Corolla or a Honda Civic if you want something that's going to last for a really long time. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Rui says, how do I fix trouble code PO730, incorrect gear ratio? I got a Mercedes-Benz 2002, the PO730, incorrect gear ratio. I can drive it a little while, and then when you stop and turn the key off, wait about a minute, you can drive and it runs okay, but then when you go back to the highway speed, it doesn't change to the higher gear. What do you think is wrong? It needs a new transmission. I mean, you could try to get it rebuilt. Hardly anybody knows how to rebuilt Mercedes-Benz automatic transmissions. Every car I have ever worked on that had incorrect gear ratio either needed a total rebuild or totally new transmission. They're just broken internally so far that it's not generally worth the effort to attempt to rebuild them. They're just so complex, and the parts cost so much money on Mercedes-Benzes. But on most other cars, it's not all that different. I've had people bring me Chevys, and they have incorrect gear ratio, and you find out, yeah, you really need a new transmission. Even if you took the old one apart, you'd find so many broken parts that it's not worth fixing. Kind of like an engine that blew on a highway going 80 miles an hour. So many different things in the engine would have broken. It's not worth fixing. And with those transmissions, when they get incorrect gear ratio, you could take it to a pro tranny shop happen. They might say, oh, we can rebuild it for you, blah, blah, blah. More than 1/3 of the time when they do that, they never work right again and you spent thousands on it. So, I mean, unless the guy's nuts, it's a 22-year-old Mercedes, it'd be better to just get rid of the vehicle. Or if he wants to fix it right, see what a totally remanufactured transmission costs from Germany. And then you decide whether you want to fix it or not. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.